Hey there, this is Birch, and getting into crowdfunding. Right now we're seeing an increase of crowdfunding projects on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and even I saw that there was some comic creators just basically kind of doing GoFundMe, which doesn't really seem like the right vehicle for making comics. But whatever. You have people on Patreon doing various projects, so you have this crowdfunding upswing, which taking comics out of for a moment is normal and natural. It's where technology is. It's where a lot of these kind of projects are being funded and pushed. And it's a way to kind of get your project, utilize the internet, utilize the marketing and the message and social media to get your product out in front of customers, bypass the traditional storefront vending systems and retailers and everything else, and get your project funded and go. And when we look at Indiegogos and Kickstarters and funded projects like that, what people tend to do, because it's human nature, is they look at the big ones. They look at the ones that were successful, that raked in hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we say, all right, that's the bar. That's what we're all going to shoot for. And that's, it brings the dream to life. Now, the reality is these crowdfunding projects, not just comics, but just always and in general, the actual threshold, the bar, if you will, the middle is significantly lower to a point where they're vanity projects at best, but more often than not, they don't get funded and they don't achieve what the creators hope to achieve. And that's not a knock against the platform. It's just normal. It's there's a lot of noise out there, and there's a lot of you think that you're bypassing a lot of competition and you're going straight to the consumer by going crowdfunding, but you have a lot of other people doing the same thing using the same method, so your competition is still there. You're still competing for someone's time, attention, and wallet. And it's definitely, obviously, it's a very different delivery system, different funding system, but the fundamentals are what they are. And that hasn't changed. Uh, Now, none of that is to say I'm down on crowdfunding. In fact, quite the opposite. It's very clear that tech-driven crowdfunding and utilizing social media and networks to get a project going and to build an audience that way, there's an element of, we are seeing the future. We're not seeing it. You're not seeing a finished future. A lot of people make the mistake of saying, "Hey, this is the new model. This is how it's going to be." No, this is a step in that model. It's very similar to the internet in general, where you think of at one point you had to go to your college and use computers there in a lab because that was how you're going to access things. And then along came America Online and free discs sent to you in the mail, and you could just pop that thing right in and have a really noisy modem. And before you know it, you could be surfing really crappy pages of information yourself in your home. And a lot of people, I mean, AOL certainly, Time Warner, who did the acquisition, was like, "This is the future. This is a step." But everyone who was in tech knew that it was a step. It was not a destination point. There were several steps beyond that. There were the integration of networks inside of your cable package. There was the internet becoming just an open service and not something that needed to be guided through a portal like AOL or CompuServe or some of these products were. So when you think about crowdfunding, and you think about Indiegogo, and you think about Kickstarter, and you think about all these different programs, the way you should think about it is we're on a step. There's another step after this, several steps after this. And so it's important, if you're creating comics and you want to use this new crowdsourcing model, to think about it in terms of what are the parts of this that are going to stick and what are the parts of it that aren't. Now, the parts that they're going to stick are reaching your audience, speaking to your audience, learning how to market. And if you think about it, those fundamental lessons are important even if you are going through Diamond, even if you're pitching a publisher, even if you're going anywhere. Learning how to cultivate an audience, learning how to cultivate a market, learning how to pitch yourself and your project and your idea, that's going to be true no matter what happens. So that's definitely a fundamental that's going to continue. And that's one of those things that hasn't been disrupted. It's just giving people a new way to do it. The one that is new, or the part about crowdfunding that I think you're going to see more and more importance to, is it is the actual pricing side of things. So previously, we saw pricing controlled by a publisher who had set a price, or a couple of publishers who had set a price, worked through a distributor, and that was the price. That was what the market was set up to be. And then initially, you saw a lot of Kickstarters and Indiegogos with different tiers, and typically a higher, kind of a more premium graphic novel price in terms of comics, often higher, and then different tiers of levels where you got bonuses and extras and little goodies for funding and supporting. But the next step is going to be really around pricing and different tiers of distribution. So what if the market goal of a crowdfunded campaign is to get attention and to build a market and then sell that market to a larger entity? So, for example, what if a comic creator created a property, got an audience, got their audience excited, got some funding from that audience, but really more than anything was getting the audience, was getting those users, those numbers, those people who are committed to a sale. And then they approached Walmart and they said, I want Walmart to invest in the distribution and the publishing of this title, and I'm going to bring this audience with me. So why I strongly believe that is a clear future for comics and creative funding, creative outlets, including games and other things that are going this route, is the thing that the large companies need, particularly if they're going to compete with an Amazon or a just true online only retailer, is that they're going to need products and services that are bringing a ready-made audience. And one of the things that kind of gets discarded and lost in a lot of Kickstarters, and I see it happen time and time again with comics, is somebody will put out a, hey, could you please support me? I'm selling it off my name. My name is, creator X, who's very popular, and give me money. And the money is given, and then I'll send you a comic. But the creator, the owner of this Kickstarter, is not cultivating a community. Now, to some extent, you could argue this is what Richard Meyer did with Jawbreakers and the Twitter and the YouTube channel. And what's interesting about it is the more important part of his brand over time can wind up being the YouTube channel and the community and what he does with that community. Now, there's obviously a lot of controversy around the community and on and on and on, but there's potentially more value, not potentially, there's definitely more value in that community and how that's leveraged than the actual comic itself. He puts out comics, and great, that's good, and he can continue to put out comics if he can show that year after year he's continually bringing an audience who's bought into kind of his commercial vision. Then that is a bankable thing that will need to be sold or marketed or promoted or pushed. And so what all this has to do with crowdfunding is people are going to start to look at crowdfunding differently, not just a one and done, get some money, push something out, but actually as a vehicle to truly gather that market and bring it together and get an audience. And that's an interesting prospect, especially, I mean, definitely for creative things like comic books, but even more so for games. If you think about a game getting crowd funded, and the people, in addition to just taking the money, really build a community, meaning hook in, updates, daily updates, and YouTube channels, and social media, and blog posts, and all the rest. Once you commit to being in, you're getting the goodies along the way. It's not like a tiered system where you buy in and you buy in at a certain level and you're sent a bunch of stuff. Instead, you buy in and you buy in basically to a program, similar to what Patreon does, where you're buying into a program where you're seeing a lot of things. But then care is given to really understanding who that audience is, who are the funders, who are the backers, who are the people in that group, and then that entire group is taken and marketed. Maybe that group is taken to an advertising agency or to a promotion vehicle where ads can be placed in the comic. Maybe the crowdfunding is going to be done to get an early look at a comic or be part of this community that helps shape the comic, but the actual comic is going to be sold via some distribution channel at a really cheap rate, but the community is leveraged for advertising in the comic that helps bring down the cost. There's a ton of examples like this, and this is what I mean of just crowdfunding, and these comics definitely have a future. There's definitely a connection point into retailers. I mean, oftentimes the comic shop retailers get forgotten in all this. But in reality, if these crowdfunding that affect projects that are building up an audience and building up kind of direct to consumer marketing can engage with a retailer, can make it easy for retailers to buy in and order and be part of this chain, the retailers will support it. Hands down, they'll support it. You go to a retailer and you tell them, hey, I've got this built in audience. I've got this comic. I've got some financial backing. So, I'm not going to disappear. It's one of the concerns that you have with a lot of indies that are coming in from the side. And by the way, there's going to be a built in online fan community and a built in set of marketing that's going to be able to flow into your shop. That's more than they're getting from Diamond. That's more than they're getting from the big two in a lot of cases. And it's if you're able to react directly to a consumer and get them bought into something, you've got a very loyal consumer, which is also something retailers are desperate for. So all in all, that's a little bit of kind of my mind of crowdfunding and where it's going, and particularly how it's going to be leveraged in the future. And I think it is a very exciting time for crowdfunding. But I also think most of the activity, most of the noise, most of the volume around crowdfunding is still very much stuck in a America Online kind of step. Everybody's very excited about those discs that are getting sent in mail, and it's like, wow, look at these floppy disks that this company keeps sending me. How amazing! I have so many. I'm going to start taking off the labels and copying porn onto these discs and archiving it. And that's wow. I'm living in a golden time. Yeah, you're living in a step. And 2-3 years from now, the world's going to look significantly different. And the people who are going to profit and win off this are the people who are thinking these 2-3 steps ahead of how this model is really going to continue to evolve. So I hope this was interesting, but maybe I'm all wrong. Could totally be all wrong. Let me know. Let me know in the comments. I need to do a better job of replying in the comments. I get busy, and I always like and try and thumb up everything that is written. I really appreciate when you guys take the time to do that. It means a lot to me. So thank you. Subscribe if you haven't already. That would be great. Tell a friend. We're talking about the future here. Bring some more people to the party. Thanks for listening.